Webcasting as a technology is relatively new. However, its potential means it is growing in popularity in many areas of business, education and general day-to-day social communication. Webcasting allows the simulation of real-world face-to-face meetings with people. However, this simulation still has its limitations, and therefore understanding a social etiquette during a webcast is of the utmost importance. During this short video, I'm going to discuss how you as a trainer should conduct yourself during a webcast, and techniques you can use to ensure your trainees engage with good conduct as well in order to ensure a smooth and enjoyable training session. When you're the main trainer of the webcast session, it's essential for you to be prepared so as the students enter the webcast with confidence. One main thing to remember is that your trainees may well not know each other, and if they don't, they may well never meet in person. This can lead to trainees not becoming engaged with the webcast training sessions as they don't feel comfortable with those they are working with. If possible, it's advisable to set up a physical meeting beforehand so that the trainees can gain an impression of each other. However, it's understandable due to the potential global nature of webcasting that a real-life meeting may be impossible. In this situation, it would be advisable to ask for photographs and short biographies of each main attendee so that those taking part establish a more personal environment. These can be delivered from social network sites or other such online bios trainees may already have set up. Now, if you're watching this video as a trainer, you will generally be the one setting up the webcast software. It's advisable to set up 10 to 15 minutes beforehand. This will allow students to log on in time for the beginning of the session and not be panicking up until the last minute that they are unable to connect. If it's your first time using a particular webcasting software, make sure you're there perhaps 30 minutes early, or even more, so as you're able to test your microphone and webcam. Imagine how a student may feel if they join a webcast to find their trainer cannot even connect to the site. When beginning a webcast, one of the first things which should take place is a round of introductions. It's not only polite, but will build trust in participants to hear who is present and hear their voice, however brief, before the beginning. As the trainer, you should introduce by name and title the participants who will be contributing to the webcast session, be it vocally, by submission of files, or visually by webcam. You should then give them a chance to introduce themselves and make their voices heard, identifying themselves on their webcam, either by saying hello or saying a short piece about themselves. Now beyond this, it's critical when beginning the webcast that you set out ground rules for standards of behaviour. Issues such as clearly articulated roles of participants, responsibilities, and levels of engagement rights will help to create an understanding of everyone's part to play in the webcast and avoid participants holding unrealistic expectations and becoming frustrated. In order to keep engagement, be sure to reduce all possible distractions. For example, if a trainee is talking and there is a constant noise of rustling paper or endless background noise, it can be very distracting and will hinder effective communication. Don't be afraid to politely ask your trainees to be more considerate to each other. I would advise highlighting to new groups a clear code of conduct at the beginning of the webcast stating a series of etiquette guidelines. Ask all participants that while they are not talking, they turn off their microphone to avoid any background noise or the sound of breathing. It's also advisable that you ask all participants to use headphones rather than speakers, so as to reduce any echo or feedback while talking. This is what happens when the microphone picks up what the trainee hears through the speakers and relays it back to the group. This can be very distracting. When your webcast involves a small group and where webcams are in use for all participants, it's feasible that rather than always replying by voice, trainees clearly nod or shake their head to agree with questions. This will stop a number of replies coming through simultaneously, which can cause confusion. However, if this is to be stated as acceptable in the code of conduct, it should be requested that the framing of the participant's webcam is tighter than usual, so as the head movement is clearly visible. Finally, you should request that participants do not interrupt or monopolise the training session. Although this is a basic rule of polite conduct in face-to-face training, it can be easy to forget in the webcasting environment due to the lack of visible body language, which would generally show agitation in the other trainees when an individual is overbearing on the session. These guidelines will make for a better webcasting session. However, to start on the right footing, it's always good to begin by recognising individual contributions and efforts in front of the group. Participants may very well be accommodating the webcast by being willing to work different hours to cover changes in time zones, or they may be working in different locations so as to have best access to the webcast, or even may just have made an extra effort in contributing to the webcast. Acknowledging this will set the webcast on a positive note and which will be continued throughout the session. Once the webcast is in full flow, you should not look to interrupt to address bad conduct. This may be essential, however, if trainees are perhaps not aware of certain activities which can be considered bad practice or may have a detrimental effect on the session. Remember that while in the real world, communication is often enhanced by subconscious support from body language, facial expression and gesticulation, this is often missing from the webcasting environment. Unless you're aware of this, there is an increase in the likelihood of communication being misinterpreted. This can cause conflict during the webcast training and a resulting lack in trust, which can be detrimental. To overcome this, it's acceptable to be overly clear at times, repeating yourself but rewording your statement and asking for confirmation of understanding from trainees to confirm clarity. You should also be aware of timing. While working through the training session, you will no doubt have a lesson plan to work to. However, don't allow the webcast to get too far off topic. As webcasts can be accessed easily from the desktop, it's likely participants will be less flexible as they will not have travel time to compensate for the session running over a bit. They may very well have a meeting planned minutes after the end of the training session. You should also look to continue conversation beyond the webcast, regardless of off-topic discussion, so it would be advisable to set up a social network or forum trainees can add to beyond the session. When the webcast reaches its end, be it due to the completion of time or the desired content, you should be clear the session is over. Unlike a real-world training session or meeting, where people will shuffle papers and begin to shift in their seats to confirm that the session is ending, there is no communal marking at the end of a webcast. You as the trainer should look to tie things up by asking if any participant has any further questions relating to the session. You should then thank participants for attending, and end with a valediction to confirm the session has ended and it's suitable for participants to log off. And on that note, I'd like to offer my own valedictions. I hope you've enjoyed this video and gained knowledge which will help you enhance your webcast training sessions in the future. For further videos and information on best practice in webcasting for training purposes, visit the How to Webcast project at www.webcasttolearn.com.